Means cut from a different cloth. Now joining forces, helping you to elevate your personal brand. Yeah, I'm talking about Nicky and Moose, bringing you a never before seen perspective into the mindset, the mentality, the behaviors, the driving force, but more importantly, the stories behind the people and brands that you know and love the most.
Was poppin'. Welcome, Nicky and Moose. I'm Nicky. That's Moose. What's up, Moose?
What up, y'all?
And welcome to the live show. Different setting, just for me. Same for Moose, but different setting for me. You know what I mean? I happen to be in Mexico. Yep, Mexico. But first and foremost, let's do the regular. Shout out to everybody who is joining us live or hitting this replay. We love you. We appreciate you. Episode 56 dropped today. Another air horn. And we're getting really good feedback. People are loving the whole pass the baton theme. People are loving the transparency. So if you have not heard the podcast, please go check that out on all your favorite podcast players, Apple, Spotify. And Spotify does us right. I don't know if you've been, you're the Spotify guy. So have you seen the covers? Have you seen the covers?
Covers and the notifications, the whole nine. Yep.
The covers are a little customized. We're going to update it. But yeah, go listen to the podcast. If you have, put it in the comments or the live chat what you thought about the podcast so we know, do we continue to go this route? Because I know for sure I went a little transparent. Moose hit you with the transparency boy with the pass the baton thing. I was like, we did our parts. You know what I mean? We did our parts. Let me just pat myself and put virtual pat on the back for Moose. I just want to say that I'm just giving us flowers before anybody else does. You know what I mean?
That was dope.
But Moose, how are we feeling?
Man, pretty good. Had a good day today. Very productive. Feeling good. Taking off to Florida tomorrow.
Ooh.
I'm excited to see that or do that. I get to meet my goddaughter for the first time. I think I told you she was born 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm excited, man. Really excited, and of course, excited for another live show. It's that time of the week. Come on,
absolutely. Now. Shout out to Quest who's hitting this up at the Facebook. I see you. Okay, all right. Get podcast is always on point. Keep it real and 120%. Yeah, I see you. Shout out to Overland, Ashley, Drew's in the building. You know what I mean? And continue to comment and all that great stuff.
That's cool. It lets you know where they're commenting from. It got like the little YouTube logo, the Facebook logo. That's what's up.
We official. Okay. We official. We have Z Quest coming back. Quest, he's like, what up, family? In his voice, too. I hear it in his voice. That's the crazy part about it. You know what I mean? Yeah. But Moose, what we talking about today?
Branding right there, Quest.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I was going to say that's good branding. When you can say something and people hear it in your voice, that's good branding. Good stuff. Nah, man, when you reached out and you talked about, so what's the topic for today? What are we talking about? I was like, I kind of don't have anything to talk about. So I was like, well, let's talk about having nothing to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like, let's talk about not knowing what to talk about. That's absolutely. The best content.
I'm like, we on the transparency vibe. And quite frankly, I'm like, man, I know I'm not the only one who runs into some form of writer's block or creativity block because we are producing at such a high level, right? Like, I'm really starting to feel that the key to consistency is creativity.
Yeah.
So what do you do when you run into a wall creatively? You're like, you don't feel inspired. Maybe you don't feel your best. Nothing has changed, right? Like nothing has changed, but you don't feel your best or you don't feel like you have something new to say. So I know there's a few different ways that we have talked about it. And I know even on your platform, you share about, maybe bringing back some old content or revamping some of the content, different things like that. But I really just wanted to talk about it from maybe a personal standpoint, because part of the last podcast we talked about, maybe you just are on that grind mode with no level of balance, and it's time to refresh, reboot, restart. or there are some ways for us to do it from both a branding and a business standpoint, where you can also reignite that creativity, such as simple as going back into the archive, revamping something, putting that back out, or just really coming through with the transparency and being, hey, look, kind of struggling to find things to talk about right now. What do you know what I'm saying? Well, how do we solve this? So yeah, I just wanted us to kind of cover that and really dialogue on this piece, Nix, and kind of see what we can come up with as far as a remedy to help people navigate those times. Because I think sometimes it's those moments that make people give up on this concept of content or creating or continuing to keep putting your stuff out there.
Yeah.
And maybe they feel like, well, maybe I'm not good enough because I'm running into these walls or some form of creative block, so let me just bounce out. And that's not entirely true. As a matter of fact, we all face it, we all experience it. So I'm like, well, heck, let's talk about it.
I'm with that. First off, shout out to Isaiah for the super chat on YouTube. You know what I mean? We salute the YouTube people, but definitely shout out to our Facebook and Twitter people as well. You know what I mean? The little few Twitter people we got. Okay, so how do you want to start this? How do you know I can go on a rant about this? So
Yeah, no,
steer this.
just kind of give it. Let's start with the personal experience first, because I feel like that's always the best way to start, where you can just kind of give us that personal experiences. How does it look like when it happens to you? And then what's your remedy for it to bounce back? Maybe there are more than one, but what's that experience like from your viewpoint?
Yeah, I would definitely have to say, like, when I don't have anything, I repurpose. I'm not gonna hold you. Like, I think what we tend to think about is we always have to create something all the time, right? And even like just from a personal standpoint, right? Like, let's say from if I'm doing something with deeper than the brand, right? And I'm like, yo, I don't know what to do on this day. I don't know, like, do I drop another course? Do I get active in the community? What do I do? And to be honest, like, I just really sit back and think about old ideas that I had, you know, instead of trying to recreate, like, think of something new all the time. From that standpoint, I think of all the ideas I used to have. I try to be very intentional with writing things down now, putting it in my app, and just kind of going over when I do feel in that, like, creative block. But from a content standpoint, I mean, this is why you need to at least create about, I would say, 3 to 4 months worth of content for those times that you are in a slump, right? And you just repurpose it. But just let's say you only have, and I believe, and this may be a bad assumption, but I believe everybody's been on social media for at least a year.
Right.
And so you may not have been posting every single day, but you at least maybe have in totality 3 months worth of content out of all 12 months, right? Let's just say that safely. You think everybody saw your stuff? You think you don't have new people on your page? You think that the stuff got truly what it deserved as far as the views and engagement? Probably not. And it doesn't hurt to play it again. And it doesn't hurt to maybe put a new caption on it. I don't feel like creating every single day. And people who rock with me know, like, especially in my communities, know I probably tell you to create the most twice a week. The most, maybe. The rest is going to be repurposed content, user-generated content, themed content. It's not going to be creating all the time, so you come with your best when you do create. And it's not something that is, how do I say, forced, right? Because you weren't forced to do it every single day. Now, I will say this. J. Cole definitely did inspire when you are in a creative slump, like, push through it by still creating, right?
Mm.
So you remember when we had that, we watched the documentary and we kind of went over it a little bit as far as his like drills that he has.
Yeah, yeah.
After that, I was like, okay, you know what? You may think of it as repurpose, but you should try to put a new spin even to that repurposed content. Like, how can you make it look new? How can you recreate it to where they didn't even know you posted it from the jump? So I do little things like that. Even when on my lives, like I'll spin it a certain kind of way, but the creative not knowing what to post and just blah about it is real. It happens to everybody. It's just a matter of being resourceful at that moment. It's nothing else to really do with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You know that reminds me of Tiff something Tiff Montgomery used to say about if you don't know what to do, go back and finish what you were working on last. It's
Right.
kind of like one of those ideas. The thing that I'll add to that, I'll say is if you don't know what to do, work on yourself. Like I've always felt like, yo, if you don't know what to do next, if you don't know what to do now, if you don't know what happened from where you're coming from, if you ever find yourself lost, it's a good indicator that you probably need to work on yourself. Right? Because it's like when you think about the essence of creativity, you've likely experienced something, you've read something or learned something new, or you've come across something that triggered an emotion, a thought, an idea, an experience that you want to document, that you want to share, that you want to talk about from a different experience. So if you're feeling like you're running into a creative flow, then you probably need to work on yourself, right? That's kind of like the way to simplify it in its essence in terms of like, all right, let me get back to the basics. So I know for me, one of the things that I'm focused on right now is reading more, right? Like before, there was an act of actual sitting down, grabbing a book and reading the pages of that book, right, to kind of see what happens. Now, I used to do it before just strictly for the discipline. Like I wanted the habit and the discipline of like, yo, I'm a reader. I came across that stat that says, CEOs and executives read over 50 books a year, the whole nine. So I'm like, man, I wanna get my reading up. But the other part of it is a big part of clarity is not just thinking, it's also reading. Like reading provides clarity for you because it helps you process what you're reading, it helps you get an understanding of what's happening. So I'm back in that season where I'm like, all right, let me work that reading muscle. Can I read new material? Can I practice the art of just reading a few books or a few pages of a book in the morning and in the evening to get that going? And sure enough, Nick's, it was like weird because it was for the first time, maybe, I don't know, over the weekend, I went to my mom's house and I was like, yo, this is the first time I feel like fully present, awake, and alive. Although that sounds a little weird, but it's the first time I feel this way in almost 6 months. It's like,
Really?
because it's like you've been going through the motions and the routine for so long
Right.
that you start almost going on autopilot without really noticing a difference.
Right.
And then when you go back to your reality of being awake, like energetic, you feel the emotion, you feel the energy. It's like, wait, this is different. Like it's different than what I was feeling on autopilot because I'm more present and aware and in tune with the moment. And that's where I can gather and pull content from. So that's kind of what I've, experienced recently. And there are a few other pieces tied to it as well, because I think being able to work through creative blocks has a lot to do with the type of creative you are, right? Like, I don't know that every creative person is, I don't know, maybe a storyteller or a writer or someone who relies on emotion to seek inspiration. I think there are different forms of it. And I know for me, yes, it's stuff that I learn, but it's also stuff that I experience, right? It's like, can I pull lessons out of unique experiences or everyday stories and extract that and put them into, right, what I want to share, what I want to speak about, or what I want to teach from. So it's a few different things, but I definitely say to start, instead of saying the typical of like, oh, meditate, go on a walk, go outside, like all that stuff is great. I'm not saying don't do that, but I do think that if you ever run into a wall, It's probably an indicator you need to work on yourself.
That was good. That's good. I
Yeah,
like that.
yeah, yeah.
Work on
Talk
yourself.
talk talk about some of the things that you that you do, like, because I know there were some outlets that you rely on to kind of reignite creativity, and one of those things for you, I remember at one point you said was watching like music videos,
Yeah.
right? What are some of those other outlets? Because it seems like you've even used the rollouts or how certain artists put out their music or roll out their music
Yeah.
as a way to, you know what I'm saying, seek inspiration as well as almost ideas for how to roll out certain concepts on the platform. So talk about some of those different outlets that you might go to for inspiration.
Facts. First off, shout out to E who's just
Hey,
checking in.
mighty God.
I see you. I see you. Right. Second, I would have to say, yeah, hip hop is huge for me. Huge, just because I believe that hip hop artists are like the number one best source of personal branding, right? And so how they actually move in these digital streets is something we all need to pay attention to, and that truly inspires me, because I'm like, yo, you're not even selling CDs anymore. You're selling streams, which is something we cannot hold. You are selling an experience through our ears, pretty much, right? Sometimes visually, but mainly through our ears. That's hard. Like, that's very hard to sell. That's very hard to get people to listen to your stuff. So I pay attention to how do you bring like hype and attention to your brand? How do they visually do it? So I'm really inspired by hip hop in general and how these artists are doing things. Another thing that's very inspiring is just art, like art, period. I've been really big on that. I would say, what, past maybe 6, 7 months or something like that, where I have
Yeah.
like a whole bunch of, I would say maybe a year, where I have a whole bunch of just even art stuff and books, just from like Cause and J.RO, for those people who know, like the square stuff. Well, I can't say what it really said, but square, not square, triangle stuff, right? And so looking at how they really show what a Jordan looks like, a Kobe looks like in their way, with just triangles, or the way that they draw something, and the materials that they use for it, is definitely something that I'm like, yo, if they can think of that, how hard is it to do my craft, right?
Mm.
Like, I don't necessarily take other people's greatness as on some like, that's them, that's all, they can do that. I can't do that. It's more of a, man, they could do that. I could do this. If they could do that, I could at least do this. Why am I such in a rut or a slump at this moment? So, like, hip hop, art, and of course, just walking. I'm big on that. And now, with the Peloton, they have like these scenic routes, right? Shout out to those people who do all those classes and everything like that. Yeah, I love the scenic routes. I ain't gonna hold you. My biggest thing when I'm on a call or when I'm just trying to get my mind right is turn on the scenic routes 20, 30 minutes and just see how France looks, see how Spain looks, see how Australia looks. Why? Because I'm not going there anytime soon. I'm not going to say ever. Anytime soon, right? Even though Australia is still on the bucket list. You know what I mean? I want to see some kangaroos. I want to see some kangaroos. But so instead of like leaving myself in a certain kind of level, why don't I already see myself in those bucket list type vibes? Already be in a whole different environment, even though I'm in my house. I've been super big on not needing to do a vacation to recharge, but finding certain areas in your house or in your environment to recharge. So one of the things I have is the Peloton and put it on scenic route. Another thing is I'll put in on YouTube maybe like the aquarium stuff, right? Because I love the aquarium for some reason. I'm a little nerd, slight nerd. Apologize. Not really. But I'll put all three of my screens in like a whole fish tank kind of vibe. And I'll just watch like how these fishes move and things like that. So I have a few different ways of how to get like out of the,
Yeah.
you know, how to recharge and things like that, which may not be the normal way for people, but it's normal to me.
It works for you. Yeah. No, that's good. Let's go in a different direction for a moment, and let's talk about what do you think creates the block, right? Like what creates
Yeah.
the funk? Because I think like a lot of people immediately race to, okay, here's how you get out of it. And in a way, we did that just now.
Yep.
But let's talk about what creates the funk, because I think if we can address those,
Yeah.
habits or whatever it is, we can almost nip it right in the butt instead of letting it develop into something bigger.
Big facts. First off, shout out to Diana.
Mm.
Shout out. She knows I love her. And she's showing mad love. You know what I mean? So I think comparison,
Yeah.
that has been my theme for like a few, is comparison can get you definitely blocked. Why? Because you're looking at it like, yo, he or she has this. I don't have, my stuff does not look like this. How I speak is not like that. Why am I? Oh man, you know what? I'm not doing it, right? So comparison is definitely one of those things. Two, too hard on yourself. Maybe it doesn't even have to do anything with anybody. It has everything to do with you're too hard on yourself. Why? Why is that a thing? And maybe you care too much about what people think about you.
100%. Yep. I was going to say that last one for sure. Yep.
Yeah, you care too much. And it's crazy because what we think somebody would like is probably the complete opposite. It's actually less. I actually put a post up today like, you may think your day is boring, but we want to see it, So just document a little bit more and utilize either Reels or YouTube Shorts or TikTok or whatever to pretty much document it in a 15 to 30 second standpoint, right? Why? Because first, it gets you in the flow of creating. Two, like, put a dope song to it. Your day always looks great, but you think you're not good enough. You are too hard on yourself, and you're making it about you when you are really about serving other people, or you have a brand and a business that has an audience that is not for you. You are not your audience. So it's like,
Right.
why are you hard on yourself? Like, where did you get that from? And that could be some kid stuff. Maybe your parents were hard on you, so now all you think about is, this isn't good enough. This is like, you really gotta, when you think like that, and shout out to the last episode because it really opened my mind. Like, you really got to think about the source of why you do certain things. You got to think of the source of, why am I hard on myself? Why do I care so much about what other people think? I could have fell into that. I'm an only child. I would love
Right.
that everybody loved, because I didn't have that many people to rock with when I was growing up, and I'm, it's me and Dreamcaster and Sony and all that. It's me in the video games.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I should
Yeah.
care. So
Yeah, that's huge, man. That's huge. I mean, it's definitely it's a lot of those personal things that I think create a lot of those challenges, and we don't see how it tumbles over. I've talked about it maybe over the last month or so, where I talked about, man, the fear of being seen, right? And it's like, just that idea, it may not make a lot of sense for people, but those who know, they know, right? Like, wait, why would you be afraid of being seen? It's weird, right? Like, I don't know what it is. Part of it, I'm sure, is like, what are people gonna think about me? But then there's a rare group, and I've actually connected with someone who almost proved that this is a real thing. It's fear of coming off like you're copying everyone out there, right? Like, you love to be unique, so much so that the minute that other people pick up on what you're doing, or it seems like you're doing what some of the masses are doing, it becomes a little bit more like, you know what? I don't want to seem like I'm just another guy out there. I'm just another gal out there. So part of the problem is that too, right? And even when you break that down, even just from like from just a technical standpoint, that's what a trend is about. Like, a trend is only a trend almost for a limited time, right? Like, eventually you do it so that people can catch on to it. Now, does that mean that when people catch on, you stop doing it? I don't know. Like, how do you see that? I'm still kind of working through that, because I do believe that from a transparency standpoint,
Yeah.
that's part of the root issue for me too, right? It's like, okay, why don't you want to be seen again? Is it fear of failure? No, you've been consistent for a minute. Is it fear of success? Not necessarily, because selfishly you enjoy the fruits of the labor, so you can't say you're afraid of success when you need it to survive.
Is it imposter syndrome?
It could be, but I think it's the copying piece. That's something that I don't think I've ever put to it.
Okay.
Where it's like, oh, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't, not wanting to be seen as someone who's copying everyone else. And it's like, but why does that even matter? But I feel like that's part of the reason that it can create some form of blockage from wanting to put your flow out there or putting your work out there. So it's like, just talk to that in a minute. Like, how would you, give feedback to those out there who are like, yeah, I just don't want to do what everyone else is doing.
So with that mindset, like, first off, you're already ahead, because you're not trying to do the blueprint, right? So first off, give yourself credit with that. But second, like, we get inspired by a lot of things, and there's nothing wrong with it. First, you have to understand what's the difference between copying and inspiration, right? Just because you got inspired, and I'll go into like boxing real quick, but like, just because you got inspired by the Mayweather roll, like the shoulder roll, right? And now some of your movements are like that, but it's not the whole complete style, because you still have maybe a hook like Cotto, and then like the defense like Pernell Whitaker. For those who don't know who that all is, went over your head, just follow me. Just 3 different boxers, right? Just 3 different.
I was like someone who's going to Vegas for the Cotto fight.
You know what I mean? You know what I mean? It's the Canelo fight. Cotto's retired.
So.
I
Okay,
wish,
fair enough.
But I saw a Cotto fight at Madison Square Garden, so I was good.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Nice.
Had to see him. Had to see him at the Mecca. But you can be inspired, and that's not necessarily the same as copying. So you first have to understand that. Second, you just have to continue to create stuff until it forms its own formula. Forms its own formula. Why did I say that? But it makes its own formula, right? You're going sometimes, and you have to be okay with it, with sometimes looking like others. We've covered Swiss Beats and how he became such an amazing producer, where at first he had to copy to get the foundation right. You can't just up and be like, I'm great. I know exactly what I'm talking about. I am a master. I am an expert. You have to get the foundation right. And sometimes that does mean copying to a certain extent until you get it locked down, and then you can go and form your own stuff. So you have to already have that in your head. Like, you know what? There is a season where, because this is new to me, because this isn't all the way together right now, I may have to be in this season of just making sure I have the foundation. I would change the language, period, and stop saying copying and just saying I'm trying to get the foundation correct. And once the foundation is correct, then I could remix it. I could remix this foundation to create a Moose style. I could create it to create a Diana style, a Isaiah and Overland style. Like, I got the foundation. The foundation that's been laid by those who came before me. You know,
Yeah.
unless you are creating something completely new, which there is still some steps that have been laid out because you are still maybe in a similar like industry or market. So it's all about the language change of understanding the difference, and then changing the wording and saying I'm going to master the foundation before I remix to create my own style.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Yeah, it reminds me, for some reason, when you put it that way, it reminds me of, certain artists who sample other people's music, right? Like, we've heard everyone from J. Cole to Kanye to a lot of different artists who sample, right, the sound, the beat, something from a different generation
Yeah.
as a way to get inspiration for what they're currently doing. Now, are they doing the entire album of that individual? Not necessarily, but they can hear a sound,
Right.
hear a sound and use that as a way to remix it, like you said, or bring some new flavor to it. And for those of you watching, man, I'm curious to know, what does creative block look like for you? All right, like, what does creative block look like for you? Because I think for all of us, and as I'm talking this out even more and hearing Nicky's perspective and sharing my own, I'm starting to see, like, yo, my creative block is slightly different, right? Like, it's not necessarily that I don't have anything to say. Maybe I'm just concerned about what they're going to think about what I have to say, right? And for a few different reasons. So I'm curious, if you're tuned in from whichever platform, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, the whole nine, drop it in the chat, man. Let us know, what does creative block look like for you? Just kind of let's see what the community has to say about that as well.
Yep.
Let's jump over to it from kind of like that professional side, Nick's, that branding business side.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know if that varies, like if there's a difference from a personal brand and they run into that rut versus I'm now a business owner, or I'm thinking of my brand, maybe a big brand or whatever it is, and it's like, shoot, I I'm I don't know. It's like, it's not clicking anymore. I don't feel as confident in it. I'm not posting with that same level of conviction or consistency, and knowing that, okay, I'm expecting this. This is what's going to happen. Like, there's some changes happening. What does that remix, even to use the same language? What does that remix look like on a branding and a business side now? Does it vary, or what would you say on that front?
I don't think it has to vary. I think
Hmm.
it goes with the same, it goes with the same steps. Like, you have to understand the foundation, right? And then create, you know. Shout out to Overland. Overland asked, as far as like, what elements make up for a solid foundation, or is it you learn the elements as you create? No, that goes to researching your industry and your niche, right? That goes to what has already been done, what has already been laid out, what has been some of the accomplishments, what has been from a branding and business standpoint, what is some of the content that's already been laid out, what's some of the brand names, brand colors, what has the websites already look like, what types of content do they have, as far as like, do they have a YouTube channel, a podcast, a blog? Like, understanding, and I always say this, like, people need to have literally a book of what has happened in their industry, from thought leaders to different accomplishments, milestones. They should have all that, right? So then when we are in that kind of creative rut, we look at the past for inspiration, because the past actually repeats itself, but just in a new form and a new voice. Isn't it? This really isn't quote unquote new. It just seems new because a new person's doing it. It seems new because it's visual. It seems new because how they present it has not necessarily been presented before due to technology or different tools and resources. But things that are happening necessarily isn't new. The message may be put into a different context or something. So you have to always, when in a creative rut, for your personal brand, for your business or whatever, go back to history. Go back to history of your industry. Not I'll go back and read hieroglyphics and things like that, even though I'm a geek and I like that stuff too. But that's not it. What I'm saying is go back to the history of your industry and your market, and you see what was that turning point for them. Maybe you can even see on the top brands that you love, the top businesses that you love, you could possibly see where there was a creative rut. You will see that some people may not have sold certain things, may have not posted certain things, may have not created certain things for a bit, whether that was on purpose or because there was a creative slump. What I do is say they were in a creative slump because I need to make them feel normal too. You see what I'm saying? Like, I can't assume, this was all strategic. What they're doing is they're planning for the next quarter. And I'm like, they don't know what to post either. They don't know what to do either. They don't know what products to put out either. You know what? But how did they come back? What was their comeback plan? What was their rollout? What was those kinds of things? So, it's the same kind of process, but more in more of, I got to go back to the books and see what they did, so I don't have to feel like I'm alone in this, because they've created something successful, whether it's a business or a brand or whatever. They've created something successful. But to sit here and say they didn't go through nothing, they didn't go through ups and downs, they didn't go through no creative ruts, nothing like that, that doesn't sound right. So I make everybody sound normal.
I like that. I like that. Shout out to Jay Rivera, said creative block for me is troubling since my message goes against my professional contracts. So although positive, bringing up points or concerns online has been resulting in professional discipline. That's real. That's real. That's real. Yeah, we've seen, we've had a few people actually. Yeah.
Air horn on that.
Yeah, I was gonna say we've had a few people kind of discuss similar concern, even in shout out to our extreme execution coaches as well. There's somebody in that community who's kind of been navigating similar grounds, trying to figure out like, okay, what's the fine line between I'm going against almost company policy versus I'm trying to do my own thing outside of company hours, right, or after hours, or outside of just my work I'm doing professionally, on the clock there. So I think that's a true live concern. I think the piece that I also think like it probably is overlooked because of how simple it is, and this can work for both personal, brand, or even on a business level, is the storytelling, right? I think that whether we're telling our own stories or we're looking for ways to share new stories, and by new stories, it could be the evolution of where you stand today, or you're highlighting others, right, in your space that you have come across or you appreciate their work. And truly, this podcast or this entire show was even built off of the ground of, hey, let's acknowledge people while they're still here, right? Like when we first started, it was almost a mix of both. It's like whoever deserves or whoever was underappreciated, let's make sure we highlight those people. But that idea of sharing the story of people, past and present, it developed this concept that we have today. So I do want to say that the importance of storytelling is super unique. And I'm even challenging myself now to not stop at the first aha, right? Like I think that like one of those creative blocks comes from you're not fully extracting or like getting that last little bit of toothpaste out of the tube, if you will, right? Before throwing it away. So I found like, and I just caught on to it recently. Like literally, I shared a story about when the wife took both the car keys on a trip to AC and left the car
Yes.
here. You know what I'm saying?
That was
Went
hilarious.
on the trip and left the car here. And I shared the story and kind of extracted the lesson from it on the call. But as I kind of like kept thinking about it, I'm like, yo, you didn't extract all the lessons from it. So like stop rushing to the first aha and getting so excited, like, yo, I got something to share. I got a story to tell. I got something to create, that you don't fully walk through the process of like, okay, what else is there? Like, is there something that I'm not seeing? Is there another way I can spin it? Is there a way that I can create a shock factor? Because I think that it's easy for people when you're telling them a story. The best stories are the ones that catch you off guard. Like, wait, what? I thought it was going to go left and it went completely right. Like that complete shock factor. So I do want to emphasize the importance of storytelling, but even pushing greater on, extract every piece of your story out. Especially if it's relevant, if it's relatable, if there are teaching moments from it. Really push yourself to pull those things out, because you can revisit some of those past experiences and find yourself saying, oh, I've never talked about this part before. Oh, I should probably mention this story next time, or use this as an opportunity to connect here. So I think that part of it is important as well. Whenever you run into those ruts, it's like, are you extracting everything out of your story, right? Or are you just breezing over because you feel like, well, nobody cares, or that part is not relevant, or things of that nature. So I know that part is pretty good too.
Facts. That was good. I like that.
Yeah. I'm looking at Diana's comment here. She said, I can remember being in a creative rut and I made myself record, edit, and upload 2 videos back to back. I hated them, but I did it anyway. And when I start feeling that fire come on, I create and post ASAP. I like that. I like that. What's the thought on kind of like this forced, creativity, in a sense, where it's like, I don't feel it. I hate this. I'm not in the mood right now.
Yeah.
When is the time to force it? When is the time to be like, you know what? Maybe it's a good time for me to step back. Like, let me not necessarily walk down that tunnel right now.
I mean, so the forcing, I wouldn't necessarily call it forcing, but let's do it. Uh, that's for those who are super determined, right? Or really like, I'm competitive and things like that. The reason why is because this is where you go, you push your feelings aside and you just go. You just do what you're supposed to do and realize that, you know, this is not based off anything factual of why I'm in a creative slump. This is just a feeling. And a feeling can honestly hold you back from speaking to your audience that day who may need you, making extra bread to catch that milestone based off just, I'm not feeling it today. I'm not doing it today, right? And normally creative minds have that, like, I don't feel like being creative. And that's cool, but to some, it's like, you didn't do this to feel a certain kind of way. You did this to put your stuff out to the world, right? There's going to be things you're going to feel amazing about, and it's not going to do anything. It's not going to move the needle. It's not going to make no extra money. It's not going to get no views. Nothing, like, it's not going to do anything, but you feel really good about it, right? So to some, that's like, I'd rather, and it goes with a balance. That's why I said some people could do the forcing and creating over it, right? Now, some people need to have a healthy balance of, I know I have to do this for the people, but I actually have to honestly enjoy and feel the moment at the same time, right? So you have to find a happy medium as far as that. You have to be like, you know what? I may not feel like doing this, but I can at least do this to my full ability, right? So I may not be able to do the complete project, but I could at least do this to my full ability. So you need to find a happy medium for those who really can't really force your way to create. Now, I'm the type that like I have to force my way to create because I just have too many people that are counting on me in the word consistency. And I can have really good reasons not to. I could have the humongous creative slump because of some mental health situations and things like that. Absolutely. However, your issues or your creative slump is somebody else's inspiration to create as well.
Oh wow.
So,
Oh wow.
so
That's a bar, Nix.
Thank you. But
It's a good bar.
it's those times of where we have to really stop being about self and understand that our struggles and our lack of creativity is what somebody else needs to hear to feel normal as well, right? So just like how we got on here and said, you know what, we don't really have anything to talk about, so let's talk about not knowing what to talk about, right?
Right.
And then people, and shout out to those people who are in the live chat and things like that, because, and those who are watching the replay and commenting, because it's those moments that prove what I'm saying, as far as people need to hear the transparency moments. People need to hear the struggle. People need to hear and see that they're not alone in this process of growing a brand and growing a business and just being a human being in general. Like, we all feel these different these ups and downs with our creativities, our ups and downs of wanting to keep going. And it's a real thing. How do you address it? By addressing people and saying, yo, how do you address it? Like, how do I
have the conversation?
Right. Have the conversation to where now they feel included. Like, yo, you know, you helped me and I'm hoping that I helped you. It's almost like an accountability partner at that point. It's like, yo, what? I promise you I didn't think you were like this. I promise you I think you are a creative machine. I promise you, like, people, because of how you brand yourself, seem as if you got it all together. And it's those moments when you say, I legit don't have anything for y'all today. Legit don't have anything for y'all. Have y'all been through this situation, and how did you get through it? The next time any of y'all go through that, I dare you to post that. Yo, I have nothing to post. Like, how many of y'all have gone through that? Like, help me get through this. What did y'all do? And that would probably want to be one up there with one of your most engaged posts. Period. Because it's so relatable. It's like, yo, me too. Like, how many, from a business standpoint, yo, how many people after a launch just feel exhausted? Like, what else am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to do this again? Like, I just spent so much energy doing this. Am I supposed to do this all over again? Like, how did y'all go through this? Now, that would be a smaller percentage, but there'll be people who still talk to you about it. So talk and be transparent about what's going on and the feelings, because other people feel that too.
Yeah. Last point. Let's talk about collaboration, because you kind of started, talking about other people as well. I guess I want to see, like, is intentional collaboration a key to helping somebody get out of that creative rut, right? So, like, if I'm not feeling it, do I say, you know what, let me reach out to so and so and see if there's opportunity for some form of collaboration? Could that be something that, folks rely on when thinking about brands, thinking about from a business standpoint, to overcome on that?
Yeah, I think it's called leaning on somebody. There's nothing wrong with that. Lean on somebody for their creativity. It may spark up your own creativity. I know there has been times where I have nothing to talk about on the podcast. Absolutely nothing. Don't know what we're in the last hour. I was like, yep, Moose, I have nothing. And what happens? Moose will be like, all right, we can do this, this, this. And he'll tell me one or two things, and then I'll be like, bet. I know the whole show now. Right? And so you want to collaborate with people who can steer you in the right direction, or maybe once in a while carry you through those times, because it's going to happen. Maybe it'll be on some, I don't really want to say anything, so let's make this an interview podcast. Yeah, let's do it. I ask you 100,000,001 questions, Moose. Fine, let's do that. Yo, ask me questions. Okay, let's do that. Like, collaborations, I think, is very strategic and very worth it when you are in that kind of, that stump of creativity.
Yeah. I really hope that as everyone's listening, and it's even a reminder for myself, honestly, that sometimes it's important to break a lot of the rules that we have created for ourselves, all right? Because rules are good. Like, they give you structure, they give you a plan, they create discipline. But I think when we start running into some of these walls or ruts or blocks, I think we probably place rules in areas where we should lay down bridges. All right. So like we stop ourselves from getting to the next place because it's like, oh, no. I don't do that. Oh, no. That's not how I get down. And I'm not saying go against your values or your morals. And no means am I saying that. But I do think that sometimes tearing down some of these like rules, it helps us to really get out of the situation that we're in, because it's like, this was self-imposed. Like, this wasn't, as a matter of fact, it wasn't even beneficial. Like, I gained absolutely nothing from having this quote unquote non-collaborative approach, like that J. Cole no features mentality. Okay, maybe that was good for a season. Like, Cole, that was good in 14. It's 21. You might need a couple of those, right? Like, so I do think that just revisiting some of those things that we set up for ourselves in previous seasons and making it okay to break the rules and say, you know what, let me try something new, right? Let me try something new, and not being afraid to kind of take that step out there and see what clicks, what connects. That's always a way out of it. So definitely no perfect way across. I mean, as you can see, we've talked about it from a few different lenses. I don't know that there is a perfect way to get yourself out of a creative block. I do resonate deeply with the personal sides, right? Like the reasons why it's there in the first place. And I would say, as much as possible, like, really hold yourself accountable to not follow that path. Like, okay, I'm gonna seek inspiration, but I'm not gonna get to the point that I'm trying to mirror or copy so and so style, so much so that I'm not putting out my own if it doesn't look like that. All right. So like some of those pieces I think are important too. But great talk as always, man. This was dope.
This is great. I will say this, going back to like the personal side of things, and like, the feeling like you're copying, it I would actually write that down every day that you feel that way. Like every day that you're about to create something and you don't, not you personally, I'm just saying anybody, right?
Right.
That write it down, because I think if you journal that and you see how many times you stopped yourself because you assume that you're copying, you'd be very shocked. It's like, how long am I going to be doing this for?
Yeah.
Like, how long am I going to feel like I'm copying and I'm actually stopping creation? Like how do I copy something I haven't even made? So, for those who struggle with that, not to move. I just anybody. You know what I mean? Anyways, shout out to everybody who's watching live. We got like 30 some people watching live. We appreciate it. Shout out to everybody who watches the replay. Do me a favor, listen again. Like, maybe hit it twice. This week's episode. It was a really good episode. Surprising, because I I don't even think we had, once again, didn't know if we had
I
much to
wasn't a
talk
part of
about.
that.
Right,
Yeah.
right, right.
Yeah.
Didn't have much to talk about and ended up talking about a lot, which is crazy, which goes back to what like Diana was saying, was like, yo, even sometimes when you don't feel like creating, sometimes just creating it can make a magical stuff. I mean magical, because when I say, like, I look back, I had to repost. I posted something about what I was transparent about, which if you haven't heard it, I'll give you a hint on my Instagram and Nicky and Moose Instagram. But go watch the full thing. Well, hear the full thing. Tomorrow's the full episode. But you'll be very shocked when you do just create and you don't really think about, like, I don't have anything, and what magic comes from that. And that even came from Moose, because he was like, all right, let's go. And when he hit that whole Bob Marley topic, and I was like, sir, we both don't even have kids, and you sound amazing in this topic. This is great.
Right.
I'm not gonna be honest, I was a little like worried. I was like, yo, both of us are only child. We both don't have kids.
Yeah. Right.
Why are we
Yeah.
talking about this topic? why,
Yeah.
why
Right.
are we talking about this topic? It worried me, but I trust. That's another thing. Hello, hold on. Let me go. Don't get with people like creating, partnering, anything that you really just don't trust. You gotta rock
Yeah.
with it. Like
Yeah.
if you are, that's my partner, that's my content buddy, that's my right hand, whatever. You gotta trust them. And
Yeah.
yeah, you may say a prayer, please God, just make this work. Like, I'm not sure about this one, but if you can't just let go and let them do something and see how that rocks out, like, why are y'all even doing things together? Why
Yeah.
y'all
Yeah.
even?
Yeah. That's real. That's real. Yeah. I felt good once we got the title. You know what I'm saying? Like I was
Oh,
like,
first
as
three
we were
seconds, pass the baton. I
yeah,
was like,
just as
wait, what?
I was like, oh, that's a little different. We typically get our titles at the end, so I'm like, oh, okay. If there's a title, we can really, spearhead this thing. But nah, you're right. I was not expecting what came out of that, at least from a transparency standpoint, and the response, even the screenshot you sent me today. I was like, wow, okay,
Facts.
I see it. I see it.
They want you transparent, Moose. They
Love it.
watching and they're like, yo, the growth. I love it
Right.
every single
Right.
day. But still, I will move with caution, because I've gotten in trouble too many times. 2 or 3 times is enough for me. I have to, like, how was your day? And just like lean back and see where he
Sit out the
goes.
way.
Because if I say,
Timing,
hey, you
timing,
did
folks.
this. Yeah, no, don't, let's not talk about that.
Yeah, not today. Timing. It's all about timing. You know what I'm saying? Timing.
I'm like,
All about timing.
nope. So how's your day, Nikki? It's confused now. It's confused.
Confused.
Yeah, so little by little, people, he is becoming a little bit more transparent. I'm just saying, that needs to be
Yeah.
celebrated. That needs to be celebrated. But we are out. Moose, thank you for this amazing conversation. I think we're in a
Absolutely.
row of
Thank
just
you.
really good conversations lately.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
just saying.
For real.
Just saying.
Yeah.
Listen to the podcast. Watch it Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. West Coast time, wherever coast or global life
Country.
that you
Yeah.
live, right? Global life that you live. But that's coming out on Wednesday. Podcast audio is out right now, episode 56. Really good episode. Share it with somebody. Text it to somebody and take a screenshot. At least put it in our DMs. At least put it in our DMs saying, yo, Nikki, yo, Moose, I shared it. This really was dope, and I wanted to share this with at least somebody close to me. So we appreciate you. But until next time, same place. Well, I'll maybe be back home, hopefully. I think I'll be back home. But same place that you're watching this, same time, and you know what we're going to say.